Hey, what's going on, everybody? Man, Eric Wilson, Sports Arena, Fox Sports Radio, 1070 WKII. Let me just say this is going to be a great show today for two very important reasons. I have asked two gentlemen who I've known for over a decade, both guys in the business, to join me today because the three of us, somehow, some way, have not done a show together until now. So first, let me introduce I had him on last week, NBC Sports Radio 1060, the Sports Hangover out in Arizona. Like I said, one of the 5 Dallas Cowboy fans I actually do love and respect. Mr. Michael Caratanudo is with us. Mike, what's going on, man? How are you? Staying safe, I hope.
Absolutely. And I think you say 5 because of the 5 trophies that are in Dallas. I like that.
It's not 1 per trophy. And aside from that, this guy has been with me, and you guys know this because he's been with me at Orlando Magic games. He's actually been on the show as well. He actually sat in with me a few years back and did a draft with me. I don't even know what to call him right now. Usually he's got a show, Turning Point or something. But my man, Jake Rongholt, in the building. Jake, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Glad to be back here, and just really happy to be back on the Sports Arena, and good to hear from Michael again as well. So this should be a great show.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be awesome. So, I mean, there's a lot going on, even though sports is not really, I guess, the talk. And again, we want to make sure that we express to everybody who has been affected by this, and in some way we all have. Let's just all take a moment, reach out to the people who you haven't spoke to in a while. I'm very thankful that both my brothers are with me today. Love you guys. Thank you. With that, Jake, always a pleasure having you on the show. Mike, your Cowboys still suck, but we'll get to that later.
Wow. Well, they're still better
right
than the
out
Eagles,
that gate.
Oh yeah. That's what we're starting
they're
with.
still
So
better
you
than
know
the
what?
Eagles, and I mean, come on. Who really wants to live in Philly? The only thing you have is cheesesteaks and history. That's it.
What do you have in Texas? Please, all you have is Jerry World, and then the rest of Texas is like,
oh, wow.
I mean, you got some good barbecue, but that's about it, bro. What you doing?
That is some of the best barbecue, to be exact. I was actually in Dallas back in January for a 7-on-7 tournament. And, it was just great to see, smart people wearing Cowboy stuff. And
here he goes.
Just, educated and, bright. And
All right. I'm skipping past you right now. I'm about to mute you. But anyhow, Jake, I had Mike on the show last week. And I asked him, so let me get your thoughts really quick on this. D-Hop going to the Arizona Cardinals, man. I got to get your take on this.
Well, I love the move for the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, they needed something like this to understand that what they're trying to build with Cliff Kingsbury as head coach and Steve Keim still in the GM office is that this team wants to win. And to be honest, they were actually a fun team to watch for a little bit here and there. One of the things that really helps with DeAndre Hopkins is that there is a guy out there just as classy as Hopkins that just wants to play football, and that's Larry Fitzgerald and Hopkins together now. And not to mention, you'll have Christian Kirk out there. So Kyler Murray now has no excuse to become one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL when you got 2 Hall of Fame in the making with Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, the thing about DeAndre Hopkins is that even before Deshaun Watson got to Houston, he was still one of the top receivers in the game. That's all he's going to be. He's going to be great to be around, a good locker room leader, and this is what Arizona needed. Because if you take a look at the rest of the signings that they've had, Jordan Phillips, I thought that was a good move. I know that people are ripping on him. I mean, ESPN tore him up because of his 9.5 sack season because he was with Buffalo, but Devin Kennard was actually very good for Detroit last year. Devontae Campbell, I guess you can throw a flyer on that. And then DJ Humphries, who only allowed 2.5 sacks last year as the offensive tackle off the left side, but he was also injured. So I don't know if it was right to do a 3-year, $29 million deal, but it doesn't matter after that. Everybody's going to be talking about Hopkins going forward. Everybody's going to be talking about this, and now Arizona could be about to talk come football season.
All right,
that's
so
what you need in Arizona.
I get you, Jake, on that. And you know what? This is maybe a way too early bird prediction, but I'm going to show Mike a little bit of love here and saying that I really think Arizona may come out of the West as a wild card winner. And now that we've expanded, if they decide to go with a 7-team playoffs, which I believe starts next season. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Well, they were saying that it could start as early as this season. But again, with everything with the draft and OTAs pushed back, maybe they don't. Yeah, I mean, they'll be in the mix. I feel they'll be in the mix. I mean, like Jake said, DJ Humphries, the left tackle. I mean, they need to solidify that. And, he was, his rookie year got moved around and he got banged up. And then his second year, he's playing good. And the whole offensive line got banged up and got Josh Rosen, absolutely killed. And Kyler Murray, like we talked about, Eric, got better every week. Here's the guy that you look at again, I mean, you need to build that offensive line. I mean, you and I kidding around, trash talking back and forth, but even before we started, I mean, you think of the teams that have the better offensive lines and that have them under contract. I mean, yeah, being a Cowboys homer, but that line, I mean, Travis Frederick, like we talked about, retiring, but in general, that line together, I mean, the number of all pros, and you know me, I don't count Pro Bowls because, look, Pro Bowls are cool and it's great. It gets players bonuses. You and me and every other fan's voting on it. So it's cool. You vote for your favorite players. And when they say, oh, a 15-time Pro Bowler, well, okay, I'm not saying they're not good. Obviously they are, but it's still voted by the fan. Now, you become an all-pro, that's a different story. The Cardinals, I mean, building that line, I mean, Kyler Murray, like you said, had got better every week. Drake, by the way, I don't know if you saw this, Eric, but he just signed the transition tender.
Great move.
Yesterday,
that was
I
a
think
really
he'll
good
get
move.
$8 million. I think they said it's about $8 million. I have to look at the numbers, but they were going back and forth. So again, I mean, he was playing for it last year after the trade. I mean, Steve Keim's gotten crushed out here for after he got his DUI 2 seasons ago. That was kind of in the off season, people were oh, he should be fired, this and that. It's like, come on. Inevitably, I mean, the DeAndre Hopkins trade, like I said to you, everybody was in disbelief. I thought it was like some kind of April Fool's joke.
Way too early for one, but yeah.
Welcome to March.
Like I said to you, I mean, the guy's on the path, and, playing with Larry Fitzgerald won't be an issue because, to your point too, Jake, I mean, yeah, saying before Deshaun Watson got there, but I think his first, 3 years in the league, at least 3, maybe 4, Andre Johnson was in that locker room with him. And anybody ever talked to Andre Johnson, one of the quietest, hardest working dudes. I mean, as a receiver, like, he wasn't the diva, but he was just out there. I mean,
Oh, he was listen, he was hustling. There's no doubt about it. Right. And he was one of those soft-spoken guys, but his production of the field speaks.
Oh yeah, no, and so yeah, volumes. Like Jake said, I mean, he got to be around that, like we were saying, and then now you're next to Fitzgerald, you have Kirk, you can move around in the slot. Drake, again, even as a receiver out of the backfield. But they're still going to need to run the ball. I mean, the thing with, Seattle in the West and the Rams. By the way, I just saw breaking, Eric, that the Cowboys are close to signing Greg Zuerlein.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not trying to mess with them.
No. I believe you. Trust me.
I saw that breaking.
Oh, yeah.
But in the West, I mean, you look at it, the Rams, I mean, Sean McVay, we know, can coach. I mean, the guy has it. Like we talked about, they let Todd Gurley's gone. He's in Atlanta, but when you look at Seattle and then San Francisco, to me, I mean, they're going nowhere. Yeah, they spent some more money on the D-line. They let one guy go, but they still have that secondary intact. So, yeah, I mean, I said this the other day, like between the West and the NFC South, those are the 2 divisions in the NFC that could have 3 teams in the playoffs.
I would rather, myself personally, looking at that
expanded system.
Yeah, with the expanded system, I look at
that.
No,
without. I'm saying right now. If they went.
Oh, right now?
Right now, yeah, because you can still have a division champ. You can have 2 teams from the same
the wild card. You're right.
That's what I'm saying.
And I could see that happening. Those
are the 2 divisions, the South and the West, that, again, you're right. It's way too early, but pre-draft and, like, how the divisions have played in general and what they've done in free agency, I mean, to me, but, yeah, for the Cardinals, I mean, now, yeah, how do you live up to expectations now is, again, more growing expectations, like you said, because teams are going to pick them to win a wild card. I don't know if many professionals or talking heads out there, analysts, are going to pick them to go to the playoffs, but, they'll probably have that waffling thing. Oh, they're going to be much better this year, but you're right. I'm with you. They could be battling for a wild card.
I could see them battling for a wild card. I could, because I think the LA Rams are going to take a step back. And I told a couple of Rams fans this a couple of weeks ago. I said, you're about to basically be the ending of Wall Street Money Never Sleeps, the lesser-known sequel to Wall Street. Everybody kept saying, you're paying money to Brandon Cooks. You're paying money to Todd Gurley. You're giving Whitworth a contract, Havenstein a contract. And now they are losing players by the barrel. And now they got Michael Brockers coming back to the Rams because the Ravens couldn't get a physical schedule because of the COVID-19 thing. But Brockers has not been a big help for the Rams. He could have really helped the Ravens, but
Don't
I
forget
feel like the
about
Rams are
Jared
going to take a
Goff
step
and
back.
Aaron Donald's contract, Jake.
Oh, Goff's contract is enormously bad. In my opinion, that was one of the worst signings I saw in that year. I like Jared Goff. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't think he is worth the money that he was given right now. That's just me talking. But
he's no Carson Wentz.
All right, hold on. Stop right there.
I'll be
All
honest.
right. You know what? See, I knew you were going to
McAfee.
bring this up.
I'm being honest.
I knew you were going to bring this up. Let's make something
being
perfectly
honest.
clear.
Well, wait now. The good
I'm
news
being
is about
honest.
the Eagles. Nelson
Carson Wentz
Aguilar
is
is
better.
gone now.
Thank God.
Eric,
Aguilar is gone.
I've admitted this to
No
you.
more drop passes.
I've admitted this to you. The Cowboys were trying to fly up the draft board to get Carson Wentz. I've talked to quite a few people in Dallas, stations that were covering the draft that really, from their sources, but who had the number 2 pick? So whatever the Titans was that year, the Titans, whatever they wanted, they weren't about to. They offered a lot, but the Eagles came in offering a lot more.
And look at the production that young man has proven for my team. Thank you very much. Now, I will say this. When you
Nick
look
Foles
at him,
is still better.
Let me just say this. I will. What'd you say, Mike? Hold on. Say it again.
I said Nick Foles won you a Super Bowl, though. Playoffs and a Super Bowl.
That was because of Doug Peterson and Frank Reich and John DeFilippo.
Jake,
Let's be honest here.
Who was making the plays on the field, Jake?
The coaching system was one of the biggest reasons that Nick Foles had the season he did.
Right.
That was the only reason.
It is coaching, but they weren't throwing the ball.
All right.
Guys, I'm defending the Eagles. Go on, Eric. Go on.
Guys, hold on. Let speaking of Nick, let's talk about him really quick because Chicago picked him up. And Jake, you being the NFC North guy now, how do you feel about this? Because listen, we all know, and I think the blueprint, the script's already out on Trubisky. We already know what this young man can and pretty much can't do. But now you bring in Nick Foles as a backup. Or is Nick Foles going to be the starter in Chicago?
This has already been written on the wall ever since Matt Nagy was with the Chiefs and Nick Foles was a backup quarterback. He wants Nick Foles. He's wanted, and he gets this opportunity now to work in that system. And he's going to have good talent around him, Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller. I get that. But my question is this, once again, we talk about this, and this is one of the biggest problems with the Bears last year. Their offensive line was ranked 26th last year, and their offensive line got worse, I might add, because Kyle Long now just retired. So now you're going to have this issue. You still are paying Charles Leno Jr. and Bobby Massey, who clearly shows that off that left side that Charles Leno is just a mediocre offensive tackle. What did he have problems with in Jacksonville in his last couple of games? Offensive line matters, and Chicago did not get better with that. And Nick Foles, here's the thing about Nick Foles. He had a top-ranked offensive line that was able to contain the New England Patriots and Matt Patricia throughout that entire Super Bowl. That's why Nick Foles sat back there, had a cup of coffee and a Danish every time he went back and aired it out, and was able to make these incredible plays to Corey Clement and Zach Ertz.
Jake, you're making Eric smile too much.
I'm just saying in general. I'm not saying because he's a Bear.
But you're proving my point about Trubisky, though. I want to get to Trubisky because, Eric, I said this to you on Saturday. Mitch Trubisky, again, how are you building a team? Did the Bears make the mistake? I mean, was somebody flying up to grab Trubisky in that draft? Maybe, but they swapped one position with the Niners to get him. Look, I will say this about Trubisky. I do think the dude can play. Jake, if you do not have an above – and look, for NFL standards.
I think you're bringing that up.
If you do not have an above-average offensive line, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. Eric knows I cannot stand Tom Brady. When Terrell Suggs used to crush him, he was crying every play to the refs for a penalty just because he got hit. Now, the Ravens defense and that thing, I mean, how you build a team, spend your money right. But it's going to start with the offensive line. I mean, before Derek Carr went down, 3 years ago, that Raiders offensive line was keeping everybody off, and everybody's like, damn, Derek Carr's an MVP candidate.
Yep.
Derek Carr gets hurt. The Raiders don't win a playoff game. And they were my AFC Super Bowl pick up to that point just because of what he had around him. But what him and Amari Cooper again started getting on the page. But it's the offensive line. So I'm not going to sit there and say – and I told Eric, this is Mitch Trubisky, so, either be a NFL quarterback or you're pretty much done. You're going to bounce around as a backup for the rest of your career. But Mitch Trubisky, if you protect him, because I'm sorry, the accuracy things I get, but when you have happy feet, when you have dudes trying to kill you, like you're not going to be as accurate. So if they sure that up, I think Nick Foles will push him, but I'm not willing to give up on Trubisky. If the Bears do, I think somebody,
Okay.
And that's the problem with the Bears, though, Michael. You just brought it up. Ryan Pace is already panicking in Chicago after only 3 years with Trubisky. But everybody keeps forgetting, Trubisky's numbers fell apart. He wasn't having that confidence. But when you're getting sacked at least 70% of the game, you got to understand that I can't really produce like I did the year before. And that's why everybody, when they were coming in, Mitchell Trubisky was an MVP candidate for crying out loud going into 2019. But then they saw the weakness of this offensive line. Now, Chicago did get smart and bring in a top-ranked offensive line coach that knows what he's doing, but I just don't know what the Bears are honestly doing.
He was no MVP candidate, though. Don't get crazy.
So, no. I didn't think that either. I was laughing when I read that on the
All right, hold up. We're spending too much time on the Bears. Let me just ask this real quick question, and then we are going to move on. In your opinion, and again, this is early bird prediction.
Okay.
Jake, I need you to be unbiased. Who's coming out of the North as far as division winner?
It's got to come down to Green Bay and Chicago, honestly, because and I know Michael's going to have his face this force of denial for losing Robert Quinn. But the Bears were in the top 5 best defense last year, and they did get better. I won't lie to you. I thought Robert Quinn was a good move, wasn't a great move because I don't think he's worth $70 million. But it does help when you got Akeem Hicks there and you got a really top-ranked front seven. Now, the question is with Chicago, though, is that front seven going to be as good as last year because they lost Kowalski to the Las Vegas Raiders, and then Leonard Floyd is gone now, so that is going to change things up. But I just feel like Green Bay. And it's not because I'm a Packers fan, because I actually like the moves they made. They went and got Christian Kirksey, who I think was actually a very good linebacker for Cleveland before he got hurt last year, unfortunately. And then they got Rick Wagner, who was a solid pickup. He was good at Baltimore, solid in Detroit until last year when he wasn't protecting Matthew Stafford when he got hurt. Now, and that really helps Green Bay because they were looking to try and get rid of Brian Bulaga for the last 2 years. And they finally did. Bulaga was a very good player, but he had back issues and foot issues. The same exact back injury that TJ Lang had, which led him to Detroit. I don't know who else can go out of this North except for Green Bay going forward. And I like Devin Funchess. I think he had a good season with Carolina last couple of years. He had a injury in Indianapolis, but I like this substance over style move by Green Bay. And I don't know what Minnesota's doing. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the draft. And in Detroit is trying for the life of them to be New England West. And I just don't know what they're doing there in Detroit. So right now, by default, it's Green Bay. And we'll find out what Minnesota does in the draft.
Eric, real quick. I get what you're saying. The Vikings lose Stephon Diggs to the Bills, and that is huge. He obviously wanted out. That's going to be huge for Josh Allen. But your division winner for way too early bird, Eric?
Yeah.
Is Detroit. The Bears are going to be in flux. The Vikings, I think, are going to go down. And I love Mike Zimmer because you know his roots. I love Mike Zimmer.
I do too.
Matthew Stafford got sick and tired of hearing people saying, oh, they should get a quarterback. Get rid of Matthew Stafford. Are you kidding me?
Hey, I've been saying it.
Not you.
No, me. I've been saying it. What has been my one tagline when it comes to Matthew Stafford? You pay the guy $135 million over 5 years, and he can't get you to the playoffs, and you got weapons. When you got Megatron,
they have
Calvin Johnson,
who retired early. And they went to the playoffs. They lost to the Cowboys.
I don't care. You're supposed to beat them.
No, not now.
Well, yes, you are.
But anyway,
my point.
Either way, Detroit is the NFC North champions this year. Early bird prediction.
Oh my goodness!
I completely disagree with you on that one, Michael, and I cannot wait until Detroit goes 5-12 or 5-11. And come on, man. I hate to sound like Chris Carter.
And it's also and Eric should know this too. But remember, they just got a rotational offensive tackle that was the substitute teacher for Jason Peters and gave him $50 million to protect that blind side which he proved that he could only do on a limited basis. They tried everything they could to get Jason Peters to come back in that left tackle spot, and now Detroit is going to have to deal with that too. Detroit does have weaponry.
Guys,
but
why
Darius
are you so
Slay,
defensive?
that
you shouldn't
trade
get
of
so
Darius
defensive,
Slay,
Jake.
I thought it was a big loss. I'm not being defensive.
Don't get so defensive, Jake. If I'm
just
wrong,
stating
I'm wrong.
facts.
Detroit's going to win this North, and that's it.
All right. So we've got
Michael, you know I love you.
We got Arizona and we've got Detroit. You know what? I want to switch.
Wow.
I want to switch gears and I want to go over to the AFC because none of our teams are in the AFC. So I feel like the three of us can be completely unbiased about this division. Brady is no longer in the AFC. We've seen Patrick Mahomes being the current Super Bowl champion. We've seen guys like Lamar Jackson. Both these young men are on the rise. You've got a veteran in Ryan Tannehill, who Tennessee actually believes in. So between those three, who do you guys think is going to be, as they say, the cream rises to the top? Of those three, which team's going to come back and represent the AFC in the Super Bowl? I know this is early, but I'm throwing this out there right now.
You know, I always loved Baltimore's defense, and if I ever had an AFC team, I would have went with Baltimore because outside of Chris McAllister, who went to that terrible university in Tucson, but Ed Reed, I mean, that 100, real quick, Eric, that 100 top 100 players when actually you see the film on Ed Reed, I mean, it wasn't just like the dude crushed people, but like the interceptions as a ball hawk, like, you didn't want to go at him because he was going to light you up. And if quarterbacks waited too long, I got to let him get away from him, like ball hawk, like Ed Reed. But just in general, like, I love their defenses. I mean, I like to see the Chiefs go back, but I'm gonna lean towards Baltimore beating KC in the AFC Championship. Way early bird.
Wait, I know.
But I reserve my right.
Oh, we all do. Listen,
on week 8.
We all reserve our right till week 10, 11 to change our minds. I got you.
I'm sticking with Baltimore on this, too. I'm sticking with Baltimore. Look, I like that Tennessee, gave the tag to Derrick Henry and that they paid Ryan Tannehill $118 million. Okay, I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't really necessarily agree that Tannehill is going to be a 16-game quarterback, but we'll find out if he is or not. Baltimore should have been this team. They should have been the team that was representing in the AFC, and for them to lay an egg like they did against Tennessee and Derrick Henry was inexcusable. I like what Eric DeCosta is doing right now. He re-signed Jimmy Smith to a 1-year, $6 million deal, so that's not going to hurt them. They got Calais Campbell. You need locker room leaders in there. Calais Campbell, if you look at him in Arizona, Jacksonville, they were the reason that those defenses were playing like they were, and he's going to bring that kind of flow to Baltimore. Because now they just lost Michael Pierce. They're having a little issue with Michael Brocker's contract. They don't know if he's going to re-sign with the Rams, but because of what has happened with the COVID-19 crisis, they were not able to schedule that physical, so it was not finalized. So we'll see what happens with that Brocker's deal, see if it comes back and comes back for the Ravens. But also understand this too. They made a trade with their arch rival, the Pittsburgh Steelers, for Chris Wormley and got a draft pick out of it. They are getting draft picks as well. So Derek DeCosta knows what he is doing right now in Baltimore. They're loaded, got great quarterback, terrific running game. Offensive line is still top notch because, I mean, look at this. These are 5th round, 6th round, and even a 7th round pick is on this offensive line. They have no excuse not to be the favorite to win the AFC.
Oh, so right. Jake, you're saying they took a page from the Cowboys in the 90s. None of their offensive above a third round pick.
Every chance he gets to throw in the damn Cowboys.
Jake, hold on. Time out, though. All kidding aside, but none of those Cowboys linemen was above a third round pick. But all kidding aside,
that's true.
First of all, Tennessee just demolished Baltimore. So don't be that person that's like, oh, they should have. Coulda, shoulda, woulda doesn't count.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But with what the Chiefs have and not losing too much and what Mahomes can do, again, to me, Brady Neal, look, my disdain for Brady proves my point. He knew he needed to get out of the AFC because he might have a little bit of a better chance in the NFC, but he went to the wrong division because Drew Brees is definitely going to take
Mike, hold that thought. That thought. I'm going to give you my pick. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back, and we're going to talk about that. So don't give away all the good stuff. All right. So both of you guys said Baltimore. I'm actually saying because I love me some Andy Reid, and because as Mike already gave away my secret sauce there, all the weapons are still there. Kansas City is going to be one of the fastest teams out there. And if you are a defensive guy and can't find a way to stop Tyreek Hill, I'll even throw in Sammy Watkins, Travis Kelce, you might as well forget about it. And Patrick Mahomes, you already know this guy has proven, even in the grandest stage, being down 10 points with 6 minutes left, way too much time for him. They did not control time of possession, 49ers. That's why you guys lost. All right, we're going to take a real quick break. Got to pay some bills. Come back. More with your man, Eric Wilson. I got my guy, Mike Carrottenuto from NBC Sports Radio 1060, and my brother, Jake Rongholt, Sports Arena. I'll be back in less than 3 minutes. And we're back. Hey, thanks, guys, for tuning in. Sports Arena on Fox Sports Radio 1070 The Zone, WKII. Your man, Eric Wilson here. I got my man, Mike Carrottenuto, NBC Sports Radio 1060, The Sports Hangover. And, of course, our good friend, Jake Rongholt, joining us. So before we went to break, Mike started talking about Brady and how he feels about Brady leaving the AFC, jumping to the NFC, but Mike feels like he jumped to the wrong division. So, and I want to let everybody know really quick, our man Jake, soon to be a production assistant at CBS Sports headquarters in Connecticut. So, man, great journey. We will spend some time talking about that at a later date because I want everybody to hear your story from even before we met in 2009 till now and everything you've had to go through. It's crazy. So, all right, Mike, listen, you feel like Brady jumped to the wrong division. I'm going to give you your moment, but before you do, Brady signed a 2-year contract, $50 million. He is now officially a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And can I just say, I was on the conference call when he was introduced with Bruce Arians as a Buccaneer. Brady, you know, for all the time that we talked about him doing things the Patriot way, if you will, how he spoke, what he talked about, I am under the belief, and Mike, you're not going to agree with this, but you're going to probably call me out on it at some point between now and the season. But I really feel like how Brady was in New England is, in fact, who he is just overall. His answers, his responses, when they asked him about his time in New England, he was very concise and very clear that, listen, I appreciate the past and everything that was done, but I am now focused on getting to OTAs, meeting my new team, and working with them and building something here in Tampa. Mike, I'm going to let you loose. Go ahead, because I know you got strong feelings about this.
No, I'm not saying – I've never called him fake. I saw when – I watched actually some of the conference call on the NFL app. I caught the tail end of it-ish. But, yeah, with Bruce Arians, I mean, you know, he's going to love it. Byron Leftwich is a great mind. But Brady himself, he's still playing because, you know, when people say GOAT and then they talk about, oh, well, everybody always makes the argument for whoever their greatest is with what they've done. And I've said, you know, obviously I grew up a Cowboys fan. I despise the 49ers. If I ever have to see a highlight of the catch again, I'm going to vomit. But Joe Montana, first it has to be of a generation because the rules change. But Joe Montana, in the biggest game on the biggest stage, never lost, never threw a pick. Done. Greatest ever. I don't care if he would, and you can't say just went to 4. I don't care if you've been to the most, never threw a pick, never lost against the best team from the other conference. Absolute domination. That being said with Brady, he's still playing because, yeah, Brees is holding a lot of these records. And I think Brees wants to hold out 8. Well, Brees definitely is a guy that deserves another Super Bowl with what he's been through. And shout out to him and his wife giving $5 million to New Orleans for this, for obviously community recovery, stuff like that. But I just think it's the wrong division, Eric, because you have Brees. Then you have Brady. You have Matt Ryan, who's an MVP. And we've proven –
Hold on. Stop the phone. You are calling Matt Ryan an MVP?
Matt Ryan won an MVP.
I don't like what the Falcons are doing right now.
I'm just saying he won an MVP. Matt Ryan's a very, very way above average quarterback.
Okay, listen.
Sure 27
That's true.
Hold on.
That's a good point.
Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. I will go on record and say that Matt Ryan is a great quarterback. He is not elite, but he is great, above average. Call him whatever you want to call him. I will not call Matt Ryan an MVP.
I'm not calling anybody. I don't get into adjectives. I'm just saying Matt Ryan can ball at a high level. Either way, but you have Matt Ryan. Now you have Teddy Bridgewater, who we know is a winner.
Yes.
And just came from New Orleans. Division.
Yeah, they also went and got Robbie Anderson too. I mean, I understand that, but what I see from the Atlanta Falcons.
Hold on, Jake.
Okay.
Hold on. All I'm saying is that for Tom Brady, I'm not saying that they won't win, but I think in the NFC, like when you look at it, yeah, you get out of the AFC because you don't have to see Mahomes, Jackson, and we didn't even mention Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Greg.
Look, will they win? Will they play games? I just think he'll be exposed a little bit more because, you know, Carson Palmer, the one thing that Bruce Arians wants is the ball down the field. Now, I'm not saying Brady can't get the ball down the field. We know he can. And my disdain aside from objectivity, but he doesn't want to hold on the ball for long. He's not crazy mobile. He's not sleek like Roethlisberger in the pocket. So if he has to hold
Roethlisberger ain't sleek like Roethlisberger in the pocket.
Well, he used to be. Like Roethlisberger used to be.
You can talk about Rodgers and Jackson.
But that's the thing. Like so if he's holding on to it longer, he starts getting hit again. The true colors will show. No quarterback likes to get hit, but I've seen a lot of quarterbacks. Josh Allen last year in the Patriots game. I think I texted you when this happened because I said, I go, yeah, why don't you tell Brady how to step up like a man? Allen threw a touchdown, even though they lost. He saw the rusher coming right at him, stepped into it, got crushed, delivered a dime, and didn't get up whining about a penalty because he got crushed. Like to me, again, and no, we don't know quarterback likes to get hit. I get that. But if you have to take one, I just think with what Bruce Arians wants to do, I mean, Carson Palmer, again, I'm not saying Carson Palmer is better than Tom Brady. He's an awesome NFL quarterback. And had the Pittsburgh Steelers not cheap shotted him, he probably would have went to the Super Bowl that year.
The cheap shots with the Steelers. What is
they have a lot of them. They have them. But anyway, no, my point is, okay, but to focus on Brady, look, they will win games. It'll be interesting. But you see people already saying, he's got to get used to the players in the offense, but basically assuming they're going to walk away with the division. I think that's a joke.
That's laughable.
Had Nick Saban got Drew Brees when he wanted him back in Miami, he never would have went back to Alabama, Eric, or back to college, and the Patriots definitely wouldn't have won like 14 straight division titles. I'm not saying they wouldn't have won, but it would have been Drew Brees and what Nick Saban got down there, and it wouldn't have been 14 straight division titles for the Patriots, hands down. So, again, I think it's an interesting division. And I think Teddy Bridgewater, again, because if you look at the three quarterbacks, okay, Ryan's been to a Super Bowl. Brees has won one. Brady's obviously been to 9-1-6. Bridgewater's like, okay, don't talk about me. I'm just here. Because Carolina, especially with Christian McCaffrey, that's an X factor. So it'll be a fun division. That's why I said that's why three teams, my disdain aside, three teams could either come out of the South or the West.
All right.
So,
all right.
I mean, look, I think Mike Evans and Godwin real quick are awesome. We know that. Like, O.J. Howard, I think, will be even better. Jameis Winston probably wouldn't have thrown as many picks as he had utilized Howard a teeny bit more.
Well, first off, he needed to get LASIK surgery to clear up his eyes because the man, come on.
Come on, step away.
You throwing the blobs. What are you throwing to?
But he didn't target Howard enough. Again,
he couldn't see the field.
Okay.
I went to two Buccaneer games as a runner for Fox Sports, and I watched the same thing I saw with Jameis Winston. This guy sometimes had no idea. He had happy feet. He didn't scan the field, and there was issues with him. I actually like this move for Tampa Bay. I want everybody to stop this right now. Tampa Bay is not a Super Bowl contender, so stop that right now.
Hold on, Jake. Hold on.
No.
You can't.
Look, New Orleans.
Can't.
The division goes through New Orleans. It's going to be that way. You got Drew Brees. You got Sean Payton. They have such a great relationship.
Oh, and how about Emmanuel Sanders? Just a quiet signing, but Emmanuel Sanders and Michael Thomas. Are you kidding me?
Kidding me?
I will put them up against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin any day.
Right. Look, I really like. Don't get me wrong. I like what Tampa Bay did. I think Bruce Arians have a great relationship with Tom Brady. I mean, Arians, what he does is it's incredible the relationships he has with quarterbacks in the past. He did it with Andrew Luck. He has done it with Carson Palmer. It's crazy to me. Jameis Winston, he got the best out of him, and even though he was an interception throwing machine, that was basically the best you were going to get out of Jameis Winston at that point. he's going to be able to do this with the GOAT. I think they can at least get about 9 or 10 games. But there is one major issue that people are forgetting about. That Tampa Bay offensive line, that offensive line is not very good for Tampa Bay. So they're going to have to do some work in the draft, and they're going to have to get that gelling point started up pretty early. And that defense, outside of Shaquille Barrett, is not really that threatening. And then
come on. Clubber Lang's coming back. What are you talking about?
Look, I like Shaquille Barrett. I like Ndamukong Suh. I'm glad they got him for a year and $8 million. But you got to understand, temper your expectations for Tampa Bay here before we go on that. But I think they can get at least 9 or 10 games. But let's look at Atlanta, too. I have no flipping clue what Atlanta is doing right now. I don't understand how Dan Quinn and Tom Dimitroff continue to hang on to their jobs. From what I saw here, they let Desmond Trufant go up to Detroit. They paid Dante Fowler 3 years, $45 million. Yep. They let Austin Hooper go to Cleveland. They let Vic Beasley go to Tennessee and fix that up. So they just lost 2 linebackers.
They got Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley. Stop.
Oh, Jake.
Here.
Jake.
Todd Gurley is not the Todd Gurley of the past. He's just not. He has arthritis in his knee for crying out loud. And you saw the load management with him. You got to understand with Todd Gurley, he is not the same person he was before that injury. It was even medically shown he has arthritis in that injured leg. And that is going to hamper your expectations going forward. So now you give this guy a year and $6 million to prove it? I don't know what you're trying to do there.
He's going to blow people up.
I think they're going to be one of the worst teams.
Oh, God.
I don't know.
Well, you think Atlanta?
Not with Dan Quinn.
You think Atlanta's going to be one of the worst teams? Wow.
No.
Oh, wow.
I'm very interested to see what Carolina does.
Like I picked Detroit. I'm not picking them like I picked Detroit. By the way, the Trufant pickup was huge. Losing Kennard
for Detroit.
For Detroit. Losing Kennard was a bummer. But if you're Atlanta, again, Todd Gurley's going to blow people up. So you can be medically proven, and he's not this. None of us are a Todd Gurley expert, Jake. As much as I love your passion, we are not a Todd Gurley expert.
I understand that. I'm okay with that.
Atlanta is going to be tricky because, again, Atlanta's going to be tricky because I will say this. What Matt Ryan can do, you still have Julio Jones, right?
True.
For now.
Obviously. And wait, what's the other receiver's name from that was
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley.
And Ridley every week last year, putting up more and more, getting in the end zone. I'm telling you right now, they're building from the outside. You get Todd Gurley. I told Eric the other day, if you get 80% of Todd Gurley of where he was in 2017, then guess what? They're gonna control the clock, control the ball, and give teams fits. Now, again, I'm not gonna pick them to win the division because I'm about the Saints, but I will say this: that division there, quarterback wise, again, it got interesting. And there is no GOAT, Jake. We're starting a new phrase right here on the Sports Arena. It's GOAT.
Oh man,
greatest of a generation.
Greatest
of a generation.
It just doesn't roll off your tongue like GOAT.
I don't care. It doesn't roll off. You're right. You are 100% right, Eric. It does not. It does not. But it's a generation because if the rules were the same, and I've said this to both of you a million times, there would be no quarterback in history, past, present, or future, if the rules were the same the whole time, that would touch Dan Marino. Not even close. I don't want to hear it.
Not even your boy Montana?
If he won a Super Bowl, he would be in that top five forever.
Marino would have won probably 2 Super Bowls with these rules because they got Jose'd a few times. And I will say this. Montana, they were playing at the same time, and Marino was still just destroying every defense he played when you and I could actually crush receivers going down the field, Eric, and you know that. You just had to pretty much let them go before the ball got there.
All right.
And I'm just saying Marino would have thrown for like 200,000 yards easily in these rules. And I've never seen anybody on a live field with a quicker release. I got to see when I was
let me do one last question, and then I want to transition over to the NBA.
Yes.
So you talked about Dan Marino throwing for over 200,000 yards.
Well, easily.
Is Patrick Mahomes a guy, if he wins multiple Super Bowls, could you start classifying him as possibly the GOAT? He has to win 4, 5, 6,
well,
whatever.
Everybody
But
goes off Super Bowls, and I get why. But look, okay, I'll say it like this. To answer your question short, yes, of course, because he will have won Super Bowls. But look at it like this. Okay, and all our trash talking and kidding about our teams aside, obviously I love my Cowboys. You look at Troy Aikman's numbers, Eric, his career numbers. They're okay. They're not bad.
right.
But you look at from when he started, the 1-15, and then 3-13, 7-9, getting to the playoffs, losing, and then just dominating. But you look at that 5-year stretch, and I've said this to you many times before. There was no quarterback that was better in that timing system than Aikman. 3 steps, ball was out. Michael Irvin said he hadn't even broke a few times, and he got his head, and the ball's right there. So you knew to turn with your hands up. Like, Aikman was a phenomenal quarterback. Yes, he won 3 Super Bowls. He had one of the best defenses ever. It's a consummate team game. But I've never been the one to base it off of Super Bowls. People just say, oh, well, they got to, like, you're going to tell me that people wouldn't put, like, I'll just go 10 because it's hard, like, for 5. But so many people wouldn't put Jim Kelly in their top 10. And there's dudes that couldn't make throws that Jim Kelly did. So, I mean, even today, like, Jim Kelly was a freak. But, like, I don't base it off of Super Bowls. Now you can say, okay, the Bills got to 4 in a row. They were the winningest team in football for a 5-year period. They just didn't win the Super Bowl. But for Patrick Mahomes, yeah, I mean, if you're going to win more. But if Patrick Mahomes, say this was the only one he won as a starting quarterback, had a 12, 13, 14-year career, won 3 or 4 MVPs, maybe, got to 1 or 2 more, I can still say he's better than somebody that got tonight. It's a team. It's the ultimate team sport. Jimmy Johnson, you say it all the time. People are going to always talk offense. If you have no defense, you are not getting there.
Okay.
Because what's the first thing we do?
Packers know that pretty well.
What's the first thing we always say? And we're trained to it, and it's conditioned. It's hard not to, because you and I were talking about this the other day, Eric. The first thing we always say when we see, oh, well, the defense couldn't do anything. We always, offense, and we expect it. We expect the defense to do nothing, but then when defenses do nothing, like, oh, they have a terrible defense.
Right.
Okay, well, right.
You're right.
But for Patrick Mahomes, again, the dude is money, and I love the way he plays. He obviously, Andy Reid, your guy, knows quarterbacks. He wanted Alex Smith, and Alex Smith took the Chiefs up higher, got him to a level, and then he drafted Patrick Mahomes, and he got to sit behind Alex Smith for a whole year and see how a professional prepares. And yeah, he may have had more talent, but he didn't have it upstairs over Alex Smith. Right. That year has accelerated Patrick Mahomes unbelievably. So yeah, do I think he can? I will always say the greatest of a generation, because rules are always going to change. Games should evolve and will. But man, how can you not love what the kid does?
No, exactly. And that's my whole point. My whole point is, based on your analysis of what you're talking about, as far as never saying greatest of all time, you're saying greatest of a generation. Then what I'm saying to you is, if Patrick Mahomes is able to continue at the highest level with what he's doing right now, I would have to argue that he might actually break that mold. He's already starting to break molds. You might actually have to come to terms with saying he is the greatest of all time.
I only refuse that to basketball, because it's MJ, hands down. That's it. The kids that don't know. Oh my
God, what? It is not MJ.
Oh, not this again.
It is not MJ. It's Bill Walsh. Let's get it perfectly clear, brother. Let's get it perfectly clear. Bill Walsh is the greatest of all time when it comes to basketball.
Eric,
Russell.
You talking about Bill Russell?
Yeah, Bill Walsh played coach football, but he's the greatest basketball player.
Russell. I'm sorry. Bill Russell.
Bill Russell won 11.
All right, well, look.
That's crazy.
All right, hold on.
I respect that. I love Bill Russell. I used to stay
But let me just say something about Mahomes. I would absolutely welcome that if he won 2 more Super Bowls to me. For my top 3 best quarterbacks, my top 3 will always be this right now. It's Tom Brady, Joe Montana, John Elway. John Elway did something I have never seen a quarterback do. He went to 3 Super Bowls with a lackluster defense and fell apart. In his last 2 years, he wins back-to-back. He wins back-to-back Super Bowls. And Denver was basically saving themselves because Elway was making that offense better, and that defense just got shredded.
He didn't win until Terrell Davis got there.
Washington Redskins.
He didn't win without Terrell Davis.
True.
And they did not have a lackluster
he
Jake,
he still was able to produce the way
Hold
he
on,
did.
Eric, sorry.
That's
Eric,
why he's
sorry.
on the all-time team.
Jake, revisionist history. Revisionist history.
Yes.
The Broncos back then had the best secondary in football for a 4-year span.
I wasn't talking about their secondary because Steve Atwater is one of my all-time favorite secondary players in football. I freaked out when Steve Atwater got finally into the Hall of Fame, and I can't wait to see that.
Right. He was just one. But that
whole
but that
front seven
Tyrone
just couldn't
Braxton,
keep up.
Atwater, Braxton, their secondary was sick.
Ray Crockett.
Gentlemen,
Anyway,
we're getting off topic here. Let's
I hear you.
do me a favor.
I mean, hey, blame
Michael Jordan's NBA. Go on.
We can always listen. We'll save this for another show where we can argue which team had the better defense. There's plenty of time, trust me. But I do want to transition over to the NBA. And before we go any further, we did find out that one of the all-time phenomenal women reporters in the world of sports, more importantly in the world of basketball, Miss Doris Burke, she has tested positive for COVID-19. So we at the Sports Arena, NBC Sports Radio, 1060 The Hangover, and our man Jake, we all want to wish her well during this time, her and her family, because this is not a laughing matter. Because what that woman puts on the court from a reporter standpoint, listen, she has opened doors for so many people, not just women, just anybody who wants to get into world. She's a class act personified, and we just want to wish her the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I just saw – did you get a chance to see the women of Troy, Eric?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, man. I mean, Cheryl Miller. Look, Cheryl Miller was in Phoenix coaching the Mercury when I was interning back at our NBC affiliate, and I always went out there to do interviews. Cheryl Miller, it was awesome to talk to. But then once I talked to her, I was like, why does Charles Barkley always say she was the best player in the family? So back then I started looking back up and reading, and I didn't realize that she tore her ACL in a pickup game with guys from the football team at USC. Mm-hmm. Cheryl, that woman of Troy is sick, but Doris Burke was talking about that. All of a sudden you see this team and these women, but they all had to go overseas to play afterwards. And she goes, Cheryl Miller. But yeah, I mean, Doris Burke, you're right. Doors open, and her knowledge and love, of the game that stemmed from all the way back then. So yeah, hopefully again, just be quarantined and hopefully she just get through it quick.
Yeah. So let me ask you two gentlemen, is the NBA season this season, is it over?
Nope.
What do you guys think? No?
No, it is no. Not over till you say it's over. The fat lady has not sang yet. She's not even warming up right now. I want this to end right now. I am so tired of hearing about the NBA. It could be kaput. No. We're gonna get the playoffs for the NBA regardless, and maybe we can get 10 or 15 games out of it before that. But we need the NBA playoffs. You have to understand this is going to be an amazing summer. After this whole thing passes, the NBA is going to be back. Major League Baseball is going to be back, and the NHL is going to try and push their way in. We need these playoff systems to work, and the NBA desperately needs to. They lost $4 billion to China alone in that whole debacle. Their ratings are down, but they, at that point, before the COVID-19 kicked in, before Rudy Gobert tested positive, the NBA was starting to come to that moment where the cream was rising to the top and people were tuning into games involving the Lakers, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Bucks, and we were on our way to Bucks Lakers in the NBA Finals possibly. It's crazy to me. The Miami Heat were still playing good. I was starting to get into it.
Well, I don't know if it would be Bucks Lakers. I was thinking more so.
I don't know what it's going to be anymore.
Nobody's talking about it was going to be the Bucks and the Nuggets, because that would be the most phenomenal matchup for me.
That one too.
I love the Nuggets. I love the way they play. Eric, they've almost taken, although I would love, and it's tough for them to get there because they had too many injuries. But you know me, I love Damian Lillard and Portland, dude balls. Yeah. But Denver, what they've built, everybody's like Clippers, Lakers, and I get why. Believe me, I get why, guys. But I will say this. You're right, Jake. They will come back. I mean, I saw a thing late last night when I was looking through some stuff that they're targeting the middle of May for a comeback. So if they do that, you're right. I mean, they need to play. they need to play 10 games to me. I mean, they need to play 10 games. That's I think, again, so the playoffs, so the start of the playoffs won't look too sloppy. Give each team 10 games, and just go off of what their last 10 games would have been on this, each team's last 10 games, what they would have been on the schedule. Go with that. Then you start the playoffs. Again, it will be every other night. You can get an extra day for travel because you don't want to push it forever. But I get so sick and tired, guys, of hearing, oh, man, especially with baseball. But with basketball, like we're talking about, like, oh, it's just so tough on them. These dudes aren't flying coach. They're not flying commercial. They're flying charter flights.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that they need to perform at a high level. Everybody gets that. But you go every other night. You get an extra day for travel. So you're going one city to another. That's fine. For the finals, again, you can make it 2 days because, again, it'll be further travel. But get 10 games, get the playoffs. Same thing with hockey because, I mean, in the desert, again, it was just like last year. Everybody was excited. Is excited because the Coyotes, again, started off hot. They've been in the playoff hunt all year. They're 2 points or 3 points out of the second wild card. So, again, play your last 10 games, whatever your last 10 teams are on your schedule, and get it back when you can. You know, and if these playoffs, I will add to your point, though, Jake and Eric, I feel if starting in May, and, they're saying baseball too, but if you want to start the playoffs, because at least if you put them on, if you play them and you only have the players in the arena and you're doing it empty for this playoff season, again, I know local fans wouldn't be thrilled, but you know what? You can watch at home. It can be on TV. If they're worried about, still wanting the curve to go down and be safe, again, I'm not going to live in fear, but get the playoffs on. People can see it, and I go from there. But yeah.
So do you guys? Let me ask this question: If they can get these arenas, and I'm sure they've sterilized these arenas over and over again to protect the people, would you guys be okay with empty stadiums? Just getting, like you both are saying, just get the playoffs going, get these last 10 games moving, get things back to what we know and what we love them to be. Are you both okay with it just being in empty stadiums and playing it out?
Yeah, as long as the players union for the NBA and the NHL agree with that, then yes, go with it. And even if you want to,
but Jake, if they don't agree with it, they look like fools. They look like fools.
Yeah, that's true.
Because
we've seen crazy things happen.
All the people that have tested positive from the NBA, and now I know Karl-Anthony Towns, his mom had tested positive. I mean, so they would look like fools if they didn't approve it. Now, I'm not – and again, it's not going to come down to they're getting, more or less money. But I think if you have to have the playoffs without fans, I think you need to be adaptive to that. Again, Eric, aesthetically, no, I'm not thrilled because I don't want to be like, oh, sky falling, living in fear. You have to respect something and understand what the situation we're in. But I think that, if they say mid-May is like, too early because people are still being treated, the curve's way down, people are back to work, but they still want smaller gatherings, then you know what? Put the players in there, a central broadcast team, and, maybe one local media member from each outlet, each team's outlet, and that's it. But it's bare minimum. And yeah, it won't look the same, and it won't have the same electricity for the players. But you know what? It gets people off the minds of having been quarantined for so long, getting back, still not be able to go in big crowds because of something serious. So, I mean, I think it's something they would have to look at. Mark Cuban said everything's – I know a while back, and Adam Silver and all the commissioners are saying everything's on the table. Well, I mean, it needs to be on the table because, again, just to get the playoffs back and with everything. And, yeah, so it'll shorten the off season, obviously a lot. But I mean, for teams that aren't going to the playoffs, their off season, is still there. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. But yeah, they need to play, I'd say, 10 games. Again, and even if maybe you can have a compromise, Eric. Maybe if you go to those 10 games, and there's no, obviously, health is the most important thing. Outbreak. Have nobody in the stands for the 10 games, and then maybe for the playoffs you can get people in the stands. But I just think that
I understand that idea. But here's the thing with the NBA. It's kind of different because the NHL has not had too many breakouts, but there's been a lot of breakouts of the coronavirus in the NBA.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that's the biggest thing, and we're continually seeing stuff. I just saw, while Mike was talking, that Doris, she actually addressed her diagnosis.
That tested positive. You had Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. You had 4 Nets. You had 4 Nets players that tested them as well. So if the players are going to look at this and say, yes, I want to play games and go to the playoffs, you got to give them this reason that every single player in the NBA is healthy and ready. So this thing doesn't kick off again, and then we're without the NBA once again. So you got to be smart with that going forward. I think the NHL, they're on a good track, but the NBA, they've had too many positive cases, and they have to be able to find a way to test every single player before they decide, okay, NBA is back, let's go.
Okay, and Doris did address her diagnosis. She said that she had received a positive diagnosis for COVID-19, but says she is now symptom-free. So I just wanted to update you guys on that as well.
Well, that's good.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
She still needs to be self-quarantined, though, for another 5
Well, she's going to – I mean, listen, we know Doris. Doris is going to do what she needs to do. Right. She'll self-quarantine herself for the next 14 to 21 days to make sure she's not around anybody, just to make sure that she does not – if she still has any symptom of it within her, it's not going to affect the next person. So we know that part. Right. And listen, this is something that has taken all of us kind of out of our comfort zone. And I've continually said, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. But we will be stronger for this. We will rally past this. And at the end of the day, we will all be better because of it. But I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that, because there is a lot of talk of some people are saying, won't start till June. Some people are saying might not be able to go out till July. I am of the mindset, and again, my opinion, solely mine, I feel like, especially living down here in Florida, where it's just been one thing after another with people either A, just not abiding by it, or B, just going to the completely extreme opposite. It is, but I mean, there's nothing we can do about it until our county officials.
No, you're right, Eric. Yep.
That's a whole other politics side which we're not getting into. Yeah. I'm just wanting life, especially for the summer, to get back to what we know it to be. And I hope that this thing is able to just kind of dissipate itself between now and, I'm just going to say, June 1, because I still feel like there is time. There is time for us to get back that excitement. There is time for us to kind of rally the troops, if you will, and get back to normalcy, if that's what you want to call it. So that being said, go ahead.
Well, to piggyback, though, off your point, too, Eric, I mean, it's a great point, but to piggyback off that, I mean, if you listen, I know the other night Rob Manfred was on Sports Center with Scott Van Pelt, and I caught the highlights of, the interview, but even him, Adam Silver, Gary Bettman, like, yeah, they're getting, he's saying we're getting information like you. And again, I get it, but they're also in touch, talking to these doctors on, maybe it's not a daily basis, but like a weekly basis, every other day, whatever. They're talking to these health experts because they all seem to be targeting the middle of May, because they see in China, obviously, I mean, again, we know, like you said, it's not political. I mean, over 80,000 cases,
right? But
it's kind of, it's hit that plateau, and people have been released from the hospital. People are still self-quarantined, but there's been people, over 40,000, 45,000 people I know a few Saturdays ago, or almost 40,000, were released from hospitals in China. And they're not saying, oh, you barely feel better, get out. I mean, as serious as it's been. So, I mean, if they're all saying the middle of May, okay, like,
again, okay with
that would be about the second round, end of the second round, headed into
conference
finals.
Yeah, conference finals. Yep.
In basketball, hockey would be in their
Stanley
conference
Cup.
finals. Yeah, they'd be in their conference finals, and then the Stanley Cup would probably usually starts like that third week in May anyway. So it's one of those things where it'll push it back a little bit. So you're world-class athletes. It's not like the 40s and 50s where they have, and I'm not obviously downplaying what they do. And like you said, the safety is the most important thing. So if they're all saying the middle of May, and baseball's going to get rolled in the middle of May, so basketball and hockey have shorter off seasons, but obviously then everybody says, oh, middle of May. So that means by the middle of June, OTAs are good for football,